Hi, welcome back, beautiful, beloved souls. This is going to be a commentary, and I thought I'd make a nice change. You know how I often share little snippets about my life? This one I want to share about a faithful dog. Okay, I've always had dogs just about all my life. My first dog in England was called Patch, and we had to leave Patch behind. And the dog I now have was originally got for Rob, and before we changed her name was Patches. It's now Sahara, so that shows I've always said Sahara is going to be my last dog, and somehow I've come full circle. But that's not the story I want to share. So, when we arrived in Australia, as immigrants, we were first put in a camp at Waco. And after being at Waco, which is in the western suburbs of Brisbane, it's approximately halfway to Ipswich, my parents bought a little shop, and the shop was at St. John's Wood. St. John's Wood doesn't exist anymore, it's part of Ashgrove. But how you got there was you followed the road to the Gap. Now, the Gap is part of Mount Coot-tha, and halfway, so you go past Ashgrove, and halfway there was this little bridge across Enoggera Creek, and that on the corner was our shop. So the first dog we got was a brown and black dashound, and she was given to us. So she had already bonded previously with another owner, and I'm not sure because I was only 10 when we owned the shop. We owned the shop for a couple of years, so I'm not sure how old this dog was. When I was 10, we actually ended up leaving the shop, but this dog belonged to somebody else before it was given to us. And we called it Fritz, because it's German Dachshund, and it was Fritz the first, because after that dog passed, we got another Dachshund. But let me tell you about Fritz the first. We one day decided to go to the Gold Coast, and in those days, unlike now where it only takes about an hour along the highway to get from Brisbane to the Gold Coast, those days the windy road took at least 3 hours, and with traffic it was horrendous. Anyway, we were coming back home, and it was a Sunday, and about halfway along, so about 100 kilometres from Brisbane possibly, there's a place called Jacob's Well, and it had a rest area. We pulled over at the rest area, and we let this little dog out. We all jumped into the car, got home. But where's the dog? Uh-oh, we've left the dog behind. We drove back to the rest area. The dog was gone. So we started grieving. The dog, it's gone. We've lost it. She's gone. We've left her behind. Do you know what happened? 2 days later, this dog, absolutely exhausted, panting, showed up. How she found her way from Jacob's Well, which is about halfway to the Gold Coast, back to a suburb in Brisbane, you hear of these stories of animals traveling great distances. Now, she didn't know her way home. She had never, walked it before. It's too far for a dog. But she was home 2 days later. She should have been killed. It's a main highway going down the Gold Coast. So we were so blessed to have her back. Sadly, tragically, a few months later, my parents, she must have had a connection to my parents, and my parents were clubbers. So I, at 10, had to look after 2 younger siblings, sisters, and my parents would go partying. And this dog followed them, and on its way home, got hit by a car, and still came home. Even though it's nearly 50 years ago, you still grieve. Grief never goes away. That dog was amazing. A dashound. Let me remind you, this is a dashound that walked all that way back home. Anyway, after she died, the very same day, my parents, thinking, because I was so grief-stricken, the way to deal with it was take my mind off it, get another puppy. So we got a male brown dachshund, Fritz II. And I was devoted to Fritz II, and he happened to be the runt of the litter. That's why my parents chose him. And then a few years pass. He's about 4 years old. And remember, my father was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When he was drunk, I've told you stories of what he did to me. But this thing I cannot forgive him for. He took my dog to work on the back of a ute, and he claimed that at a fuel station, the dog, there's a dachshund, jumped off the back of the ute and ran, and they couldn't find him. And he came home and told us this story. But I have to tell you something. A few weeks before this, now my father is a gambler, and he used to lose vast amounts of money. And we were I don't know whether my parents knew this man or not, but this man offered $1,000. This is back when I was a young teenage, not even a teenager yet. I'm only, 11, 12 years old. $1,000 50 years ago is a lot of effing money. So my father concocted this story, but I believed him because I'm a child. I didn't know any better. So all that day, I didn't have any shoes, and I walked, and it was a hot day. I burnt my feet badly looking for a dog that when I turned an adult, I realized that my father, being a gambler, had sold that dog and didn't give a damn about me. And I tell you what, that hurts more than sexual abuse. And I'm just going to tell you 2 more stories about lost dogs. We then got another dog. We named her Penny. She was about 6 weeks old, and we lost her. She ran off in a caravan park. We never heard from her again. And the last, very sad, I'm an adult now, and I got this quite large dog. I'm usually not attracted to large dogs, but I got this Spitzer, a very large dog from Townsville. We moved to Tarragindi, by our first house at Tarragindi, Brisbane. I went to the shop and I was only gone 10 minutes, came home, the dog was gone. But you know what hurts? Is I rang the pound. No, they hadn't seen it in those days. You could do nothing. There was no social media. Your dog's gone, it's gone. And what hurts me is at the time, we had notices from the police that there were illegal dog fights, and I think that's what happened to my dog. So I get too attached to dogs. Sahara's now 13. She could go any moment. The longest I've ever had a dog was 13, 14, a Chihuahua who died of a heart attack. But Sahara, my present dog, was Rob's dog. Rob's passed. Sahara had pups, and I had her eldest pup, Jemmy. He's passed at the age of 6, 2021. So there's a lot of heartbreak in dogs, but I just thought I wanted to share a story of how a dachshund would have travelled 100, possibly more, kilometres. There's no water, no food. The last water is Jacob's well. So for 2 days, this dog was just constantly, if you try and imagine a dachshund, a female, black and brown, busy highway, made its way safely home to a shop at St John's Wood. The street was called Royal Parade. You know, you don't think, you hear of stories like this, but you don't think that, you know, your dog is capable of it. But this shows how bonded dogs are to you, how unconditional their love is. If a dachshund, and she was fairly old, I think, as well, can find her way home, please understand, if you have a dog or any pet, the love they have for you. Thank you for letting me tell and share my story. There's a bit of grief and trauma in that 50 years later still hurts. But you know something? Every dog I've had, I loved the best I could, but they taught me to love the next dog even better. Thank you again. If you've watched this, please share your stories about your pets. I love comments. Please be kind to each other and yourselves. Love, light, and blessings. And to all those beautiful pets out there, thank you. Bye.